welcome to Mindee Goodrum. Is that how you pronounce it, Goodrum?
Yeah.
And Mindee graduated in 2018, correct?
Yep.
And we really appreciate her joining us this evening and talking about the path that she's taken to reach her current position, which is a project manager for the York County, Maine Soil and Water Conservation District. And I'm particularly interested in hearing her talk about some of the experiences she had before she got her current job. And because I think there's a lot for our students to learn from the choices that you made and the opportunities that you took advantage of. So Mindee, and I also just wanted to mention she had a major in environmental science and a double minor in biology and Spanish. So I hope she talks about the Spanish as well and what that has allowed her to do. So with no further ado, I present Mindee Goodrum. Thanks, Mindee.
Thanks, Professor Talentino. Thanks for coming, everybody. So like Professor Talentino mentioned, I graduated in 2018, which both feels like yesterday and a really long time ago. And I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do with my degree in environmental science. I like that it's such a broad field. There's so much you can do with that degree, so many different areas you could take it. So I decided to try AmeriCorps after I graduated as kind of a way to test out positions in the field and see kind of what I liked, what kind of organization I wanted to work for. So first, after I graduated, just a few weeks after, I started with the Maine Conservation Corps, and they offer a couple different kinds of positions. They do some trail work where they have trail teams that go around the state and improve trails, but they also have a program where they will match people with different organizations throughout the state that sort of like an internship that you kind of work for them for your period of service. And that's the route that I chose to do. And I ended up at the South Portland Parks and Recreation Department to try out kind of that municipal role, see what that entailed. And kind of what I ended up doing for them was mapping invasive species, specifically plants, throughout the parks in the city. Which was pretty cool. Got to check out some new areas and really learn my invasive plants. The downside is now I can never unlearn it and you see them everywhere. But it's a good experience. And I ended up taking that information and kind of putting together a management plan for the city to try and start dealing with those invasive species. And then I kind of worked on some other little projects as well with some environmental education, trying to get people to not feed the geese in one of the parks because they were really wreaking havoc there. Put together some volunteer work days, partnering with the local land trust in the city. So just some other little odds and ends. And AmeriCorps is really cool too because they gave you some outside training during orientation. Like I got to be certified in first aid and CPR, which is just a good skill to have. For certain sites, other folks worked with like state parks. So some folks got to be certified in chainsaw safety and management because they would use those a lot. I didn't need it so much working for a city park, but they had some pretty cool training opportunities and we got to come together and collaborate on days of service as well. So it was kind of cool to both work for the city and have this group of people that you're connected to throughout the state as a way to do kind of community service, but also gain experience in the field. So that was kind of one of the reasons I decided to do AmeriCorps. And you also get a stipend at the end to put towards your student loans, which is a good perk if, like me, you had a lot of student loans after leaving St. Mike's. So that was another good added benefit. So I decided to do another term of AmeriCorps after my term with Maine Conservation Corps because I still didn't quite know what I wanted to do. But I did know I wanted to travel a little. I'm from Maine and I love Maine, but I kind of wanted to see somewhere new. And I ended up in Michigan working for the Huron Pines AmeriCorps at a Little Forks Conservancy, so a land trust out in Michigan. And that was a longer term. It was about a year. And I got to try some new things there. I did get to finally learn how to use that chainsaw, and I helped them do some trail work, climb some trees. So that was a new skill set to learn, which was pretty cool. Also helped put together some bigger volunteer work days there, doing some like macroinvertebrate sampling on some streams there. We did a big river cleanup, some other little things as well, some trail work days too with volunteers. So a lot of coordinating volunteers and equipment and everything there. Also got to learn about land trusts, which are cool organizations, and definitely another cool career path to check out if you haven't considered that. I really enjoyed learning about them, and their mission is kind of to protect natural areas forever through these things called conservation easements. So I got to help do yearly monitoring on some of those properties that the land trust owned, which was really cool. You just basically wander around the property, you're really looking for violations, but there's rarely a violation of the terms of the easement. So really you just get to look around on these nice properties that often, border a river or something. Michigan's got a lot of water. So that was cool. I also put together a lot of like GIS maps for them, different maps of the sites, and their properties are starting looking at like potential new projects, mapping their trails and stuff. So that was cool. I never got a chance to take a GIS course at St. Mike's, so I was kind of learning as I went, and they kind of taught me some things there as well. So that's definitely a useful skill, and I would definitely recommend everyone take a GIS course. I've used it in every position I've had since I've graduated. It would have been a good idea to get that formal educational training when I had the opportunity. But it is something you can learn on your own as well if you don't get a chance to take it. So yeah, I did a little bit of everything there, which I enjoyed. And again, AmeriCorps program gave us the opportunity to have some additional outside training. I got my pesticide applicator's license. I didn't end up using it a ton, but we did do some minimal spraying on some of the preserves that the land trust owned to deal with the invasive species. I got to visit some other sites of members there as well, help them with trash site cleanups, and I did goose banding one day with one of the state organizations. That was really fun. Get to corral the geese and got to hold some and help them count them, and that was an interesting thing to learn about. And a little bit of everything. We got to travel up to the Upper Peninsula and do some trainings with some of the like Native American groups up there. We got to go onto one of their reserves and kind of learn how they manage their resources. And we also learned about forestry from one of the big schools up there. So AmeriCorps just offers some pretty cool training opportunities that are really nice to take advantage of when you're in that program. And I think is definitely a pretty good post-grad pathway, especially if you're not sure what you want to do and maybe aren't ready to try and commit to a full-time job. You want to travel. There are programs all over the country. So that's pretty cool. I'd applied to some, out west or in the Southwest. So they're everywhere. I just ended up in Michigan. And after that, I decided to come back home to Maine. I liked Michigan, but I didn't know too many people out there, and I missed the ocean and the mountains. It was too flat out there for me. So I decided to come back home. I didn't have a job lined up. Some people did after AmeriCorps. Some people even left their program early if they had found a job. They're pretty good at encouraging people to apply throughout. They want to help further you in your career. But I hadn't managed to find one. So I was applying to a lot of jobs. I had a few interviews, and then COVID hit, which wasn't great. By then, by the time I just started, I worked at a sandwich shop that I had worked at here. in high school and summers in college. So it's nice to be able to pick that back up. One of the bad things about this field is a lot of the work is seasonal. So that is something folks have to be kind of prepared for, is to maybe have some low down time in the winter and to have some sort of backup plan for seasonal winter work. I did end up getting a seasonal position with the Nature Conservancy here in Maine, but they ended up pulling that position when COVID hit. They weren't able to give us the training they wanted to start the position. So by then it was June, and I was starting to get worried that I wasn't going to find a position. All the summer positions were pretty much filled by then, and not as many people were hiring. So I decided to reach out to the conservation district because I had actually interned here when I was between my junior and senior year at St. Mike's. My mom knew the district manager here, and that helped me get the internship. Was in college, and then I decided to reach out because I was getting a little frustrated not finding a job, and I wanted to just volunteer to at least be getting some relevant experience while I wasn't working in the field. So I was set to do that, and then this project manager position opened, and I decided to take it. There's definitely a lot in it that I didn't have a ton of experience in, but I was just kind of right place, right time. I got to train under the previous project manager for a couple of weeks, which helped immensely. But kind of what I do now is most of my position is managing these 319 grants, which is they're funded through the EPA under the Clean Water Act, and kind of our state Department of Environmental Protection. They kind of help manage the funds, and they work with you on these projects. And kind of their purpose is to prevent non-point source pollution into impaired or threatened water bodies. So I work throughout York County, which is the southernmost county in Maine, on these grants. Right now, I manage 9 of them, which is quite a few. So I work in 9 different watersheds mainly. And I get to do a little bit of everything, which is cool. I find project sites, I go visit them with engineers and towns or private landowners. I help put together permits, whether it be local, state, or the Army Corps federal ones. I help do some site designs, doing like native plant buffers and rain gardens. If it's, something minimal like that that doesn't need an engineer, I can help put that together. I have to lead meetings with other partners involved with the projects. Sometimes I have to bust out my creative side and do press releases or design educational signs to put at these sites where we've installed, we call them best management practices, or BMPs, which is what we use to treat erosion, or kind of the main things that we go after with these grant funds a lot of times. And then I also get to do some like workshops, some water quality monitoring, watershed surveys, really all over the place. And when I'm not working on grants, I also, we offer like technical assistance at the conservation district just to landowners. They can hire us. Well, usually we'll give them an hour free of technical assistance, and then they can hire us to put together plans if they want to address erosion, or if they want to add some native plants or rain garden or different conservation topics. If they want to put that together on their property, we can help them with permitting. We also offer some workshops occasionally. Those have kind of been put on hold with COVID, but we're trying to get them started back up. But yeah, we do some environmental education as well throughout the county. And yeah, so I guess I really like that there's such a variety in this job. I get to do a lot of different things, which is great. Get to learn a lot of different skills. It was overwhelming to start because there was just so much to learn, and a lot of things that I didn't necessarily have a lot of experience in. So I'm still kind of learning as I go. I just started in June of last year, so I've been here less than a year. Kind of get the hang of things now, but things go in cycles too. Like right now I'm focused more on grant applications for next year, and starting to plan out projects for this coming field season. And then from April to October, I'll be running around like crazy all over the county, visiting project sites and doing water quality monitoring and just kind of running everywhere, doing everything. So that's really nice. I also like that I get to work with a really wide range of network. Like I have a big network of folks to work with, everyone from just the regular landowner in the county. I get to work with land trusts, lake associations. I work with the state Environmental Protection Agency a lot. I know folks from EPA, the Army Corps, NRCS. I get to work with pretty much any conservation organization in the state, which is pretty cool. So even if this isn't a position I keep forever, it's definitely given me a really great network to work with to find other positions in the future. That being said, there are definitely some challenges with this position. Since I'm applying for so many grants, a lot of my position is grant funded. And we are a nonprofit organization, so a lot of the job depends on finding funding, asking folks for money, which I don't love doing. And it can be challenging. You never know if you're going to be awarded the grant. It depends who else is applying, how your application compares to everyone else's, and sometimes things outside of your control, like what resources the town has can give you points or not on the application, or if your water body is impaired versus threatened, or there's a lot of factors that go into it. So that's challenging. And then once you do get a grant, you do have a pretty strict budget to work with. So if projects fall through or things take longer than you think they're going to, it can definitely be challenging to try and make that up or find a solution on the fly of, okay, this landowner backed out at the last minute. Now we have to spend these $10,000 somewhere else. So you always have to be problem solving and finding a new solution to things, which can be good and bad. It's definitely keeps you on your toes and keeps you thinking and working. Yeah, I think that's kind of the gist of how I ended up here, what I do. But I'm definitely happy to answer any questions people might have, or about AmeriCorps, about working for a conservation district, or just generally the conservation field.
Thanks, Mindee. Let me just get one thing a little clear, and that is the conservation district, then it's not a county government organization. It's separate from the county government.
It's a quasi-government nonprofit. It kind of falls into a weird category. We get a little bit of funding from the county and the state, but not enough to even fund like one employee or anything. It's not a lot.
So you really, the grants that you're talking about, you really need them in order to keep doing the work that you do. And
yeah.
Are those state or federal grants?
They are federal grants that the state helps manage. Okay. And then we also look at sometimes applying for other grants. Like right now I'm looking at applying for a Project Canopy grant, which is a state grant focused more on forest management. Okay,
great. So anyone have questions for Mindee about any aspect of her, the path that she has taken so far? How about some of you students? What would you like to know? Some of you weren't here when she was talking initially about her experience with AmeriCorps, but what, Mindee, you might, that's something I think that a lot of students should look at when they're getting ready to graduate. It gives you great experience, as you said, some travel perhaps. But I wonder if anyone's got any questions about that, if any of you have considered that or heard of it.
I have a quick general question. In your undergraduate career, did you obtain any internships, and how did they shape your way to get into AmeriCorps?
Yeah, so like I said, between my junior and senior year, I actually interned with the conservation district. So I got to help them a little with watershed surveying and doing some educational stuff, just volunteering with them. It was an unpaid internship, which I definitely would, I know it's great to get paid, but I wouldn't, I would advise people, I guess, to not totally dismiss unpaid internships as a good way to get experience. And I think, because I think that experience did help me, you know, have something, some sort of actual job experience on my resume when I graduated, which did help. Some of the AmeriCorps programs actually can be pretty competitive. I know folks that some of the other ones in my program had master's degrees or other bachelor's degrees, and we're doing AmeriCorps to get that experience. So there can be some pretty good competition even on those programs. And I think doing more than one internship too would be a good idea. I wish I had started looking for internships, you know, maybe after my sophomore year or something. I think that would have been smart,
Mindee,
to
how
do
did you
more than
find
one
out
internship.
how did you find out about that internship initially? Was that just independent searching on your part, or?
It was kind of, my mom knew the district manager, so it was using my network, which really does help. So if you know anyone who works in the field or know someone who knows someone, it can really help get you an in. It wasn't, I don't think it was even being offered as like an official internship, but she knew I was interested and had some tasks that I could help out with. So she brought me on part-time for the summer.
I can reinforce the internship. I got started with an internship with the Vermont Institute of Natural Science back a long time ago. And that was the foot in the door, and then you just make yourself indispensable.
You get paid, Peter?
All I got was my mileage for a little while, and then I got a really small pay. And then by the end of the year, I was program services director.
Wow.
But you know, it's just being able, I was lucky to be able to be an internship, you know, for a little while and to be able to, you know, still live.
Yeah, I think in a lot of competitive fields like this, it's getting your foot in the door is much more important than getting paid in that first position. So, you know, like Mindee said, she used contacts, and so much of it is making contacts early on and then using those contacts to open doors. So I would definitely second Mindee's suggestion that not to overlook unpaid internships.
Yeah.
And if it's unpaid, you know, if it's something that the organization hadn't even thought about, it might be the case that you would have some opportunity to design it and decide what, you know, to help give suggestions about what you could do, sort of offering your expertise and your enthusiasm, which it may be all you have at that first level of internship. But yeah, I think that's important. I have another question about AmeriCorps, and that is, how much choice do you have in terms of where you end up in the kind of position that you take?
I think every program's probably a little different. The ones I applied to, they had the position descriptions for each like host site available. So you could read through those, read a little bit about what each host site what the duties were there. And then you could, one of my programs made us choose our top 3 choices of host sites, and we would interview directly with them. And then they would kind of rank their choices, and it would work out there. And the other program, we could apply to as many of the host sites as we wanted, and then they would choose who they wanted to interview there as well and decide from there, and then offer you position if you were their top choice, or second if their top choice said no.
Some of the students might appreciate hearing what the pay is like. I mean, is it a stipend? With the AmeriCorps, et cetera?
Yeah, you get a stipend. It's not a lot. It's ends up being less than minimum wage, so it's not much better than an unpaid internship in that respect. But you do get more formal experience, and at the end you get an award that you can put towards, it's called an educational award, that you put towards your student loans. or you can put it towards like a master's degree, like future education as well. So you could either pay off loans you already have or put it towards future education. And they also will pay the interest that accrues on your loans while you're in AmeriCorps, which is kind of a nice bonus perk that I didn't know about at first.
And don't they provide housing as well?
That depends on the program and even the host site. So within both the programs I did, some of the host sites offered housing, some did not.
Okay.
Both of the host sites I chose didn't offer housing. The first one I was able to live at home, so that worked out really well. And then when I was in Michigan, I had to find an apartment on an AmeriCorps budget, which was a little challenging.
Like that.
But
We're in Michigan. Oh, sorry.
I was in Midland, so right in the
Oh,
middle.
Okay, thank you.
The Michigan map. But yeah, it teaches you a lot about budgeting, which is good, a useful skill.
Mindee, what was the end of when you finished your AmeriCorps program? What was the I don't know if it varies by program, if it's just a national thing, but what was the award at the end if you completed the program completely? Those awards are quite substantial, right?
Yeah, it depends how many hours you do. So like my first term with AmeriCorps was about 6 months. It was considered like a half year position. I think it equated to like 700 hours or somewhere around there. And I think I ended up getting somewhere around $3,000 to put towards the loans. And then my Michigan one was around 10 months, but that was considered a full term. It was like 1,700 hours, I think, somewhere around there. And that was more like 6,000 something that I got to put towards loans. So yeah, the awards are fairly substantial, but the pay is not. Pros and cons.
Yeah, I know some students who've done AmeriCorps and have actually gotten a job out of the AmeriCorps experience itself. And in some cases, two that I know of, they actually have foregone the end award for the full-time job that they've scored as a result of being the AmeriCorps person. So there is that too, right? Did you know people in AmeriCorps who did that, who walked off?
Yeah, there were some people who left early because they got offered, full-time jobs or something, or they found a job after. Like one of the employees at the land trust I worked at was an AmeriCorps member a couple of years before me, and she ended up getting the stewardship coordinator job after her term.
Cool.
So that, yeah, it's a great networking tool. And I still get like emails from some of the programs for job opportunities. Like they'll keep sharing those with you. And it can help that you were an AmeriCorps member, that you had a good network.
Another thing that you've talked about, Mindee, that I think would be good for students to hear are some of these additional trainings and certifications that you sort of acquired during your AmeriCorps time, and plus even at St. Michael's, I think, but and how it may not be obvious at the time how it might help you get a position, but you just don't know what people are looking for, and that extra added certification or capability can really be helpful. And I would start with saying I wondered if your Spanish has helped you in any way, but maybe you could talk about a few of the other things that you've sort of learned along the way.
Yeah, I think those, I would agree, those certifications and extra little trainings that you can do really go a long way, because it is a pretty competitive field, especially for entry-level jobs. A lot of them, even some of the entry-level jobs, require a few years of experience or want you to have that. So if you can, have some extra competition on your resume with some extra certifications or trainings, like I know St. Mike's has some things that you can do, or even outside of it, things that you might not think of. I never thought I would need like a pesticide applicator's license, but that ended up being useful. And the AmeriCorps program had a bunch of other trainings that I wish I could have done all of them. I also got certified in like Project Learning Tree and Project Wild, which are these environmental educational tools that come with like books and different activities that you can use for different grade levels. So that was a cool certification, and they give you all these resources too. But they offered other trainings that I didn't get to take. Like they even offered a wildland firefighter course, which would have been really cool, but I didn't have time to do. So I would say, yeah, be open to those extra little trainings if you see things that are offered, or if through your internships, or, you know, if you go through AmeriCorps or any internships, a lot of times, especially those first positions, you know, people know you're still trying to learn, and there will be these training opportunities. And I would say jump at every one that you can. You never know when something will come in handy. Like the position with the Nature Conservancy that I was gonna end up having, that got pulled from COVID, wildland firefighting was going to be one of the tasks there. So if I had taken that training, it would have, you know, been helpful for that position. And I just, when it was offered, I didn't think that that was something I was going to go into. And then it ended up being something I could have used.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my Spanish has not helped me a lot here in Maine. We are not a very diverse state, and there's not a lot I can do with my Spanish, which is a bummer because I would love to practice it more. But I think it is still a nice thing to have on the resume. I know like the Nature Conservancy, for example, when I was applying through them, they had a whole statement on how they welcome folks that are bilingual and like that have all these other cultural experiences as well. So even if it's not directly related to the position, I think it still is a helpful thing to pursue. Just anything that you can get on your resume, you know, that might set you a little bit apart from others,
Right.
can be a perk.
Yeah, I was mentioning that we have these emergency management classes, and actually you can get a full certificate in it, but at St. Michael's, these are credit-bearing classes, 2 credit classes, I think. And even if you just take the introduction, you know, I think it talks a lot about the role of government and other stakeholders in emergency management, and talks about the principles of emergency management, which I think could be quite valuable for anybody, really.
Yeah, and I think I can't remember what it's called now, but like the outdoor center, they offer wildland first aid or something.
Right.
Right. So
yeah,
that could be a useful thing.
Center. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would definitely be a good thing to take, I think. So.
Mindee, I'd love to hear a little bit about how much of the time you spend writing. And I also don't know, Karen, I don't want to get off track here at all, but she is really good with Spanish, you know, is what I hear. I do not.
I know.
You've heard this too. And I don't know if, I think students might like to hear about her SIT experience in or two. I don't, again, I'll leave that to you, but you know, I'd love to hear more about it as well. But the writing though first would be really interesting, because it does sound like you're doing a fair bit of writing.
Yeah, I do a decent amount of writing, and I think it's varied a little from, like at St. Mike's, I was used to doing all these technical writing assignments with writing lab reports and everything, which was really good experience. And I do use some of that. I helped put together like a watershed management plan for one of the watersheds here that we just got approved last month. So I got to use a little bit of that technical writing. But a lot of what I have to do too is breaking down the science for regular folks, like putting things into simpler terms, you know, trying to make it sound exciting, trying to sell folks on a project. So kind of, you do have to use a little bit of that creative writing or persuasive writing, different aspects. So yeah, it comes into play a lot. I spend a lot of my day writing emails some days, so definitely a lot of writing. And I'd love to talk about my SIT experience. I would recommend Peggy's here. I have to talk about it. Everyone should study abroad.
Question, Professor Finley.
Everyone go see Peggy and study abroad. It's so worth it. It was probably one of my favorite things that I did at St. Mike's, even though I wasn't at St. Mike's. Yeah, it's just such a great experience. I ended up going to Ecuador through the SIT is the program, the School for International Training. So they focus on kind of in-depth immersive programs. They don't do just science, but they do offer some science programs. The one I did was comparative ecology and conservation. So it's really focused in the field, which was great. And so we got to travel all around the country. We, took science classes. They were in Spanish, so I got, well, in Spanish and English, depending. They did a little bit of a mix, but I got to really use my Spanish. I liked that program too, because they put you with a host family. So you get to immerse yourself more in the culture and force yourself to use the language as well, even more, which is really great. I'm still keep in touch with my host family. I've visited them a couple times. I went back to Ecuador last January before COVID hit to visit them, which was great. But yeah, the program offered really great science classes. We got to travel to all these, Ecuador is such a diverse country. We got to travel and do these different excursions. We got to spend a week in a cloud forest. We went to the Amazon for the week. We went to the Galapagos for a week. And we did some rural homestays. We went to kind of the high altitude Andes Mountains for a couple days. So we really got to see kind of all of what the country had to offer. And then the nice thing about SIT is the last month you spend doing this independent study project. So you get to get some research experience, which is really great. And I ended up studying frogs in a cloud forest. It's kind of what I chose to do. And I just went around every night catching frogs along different paths in this cloud forest reserve in the middle of nowhere, which was awesome.
Sounds like heaven, right, Peter? Paul? Sounds like heaven.
Yeah, it does. Ecuadorian cloud forest. I am definitely in my top 5 to go.
Highly recommend. They're beautiful. Yeah, and cool to visit at night when not most people would get to see them. And I ended up helping discover a new frog species while I was studying abroad, which isn't something that you expect is going to happen when you study abroad, but was really cool. And I got to help be part of the paper that they published describing the species. So I got that publication credit that I get to throw on my resume now too. I didn't contribute a whole lot to it, but I did get to help with some of the translation from Spanish to English. So even though I wasn't in Ecuador, doing the DNA analysis and all of the careful work that they were doing to describe the species, I did still get to be a part of it. So that was really cool.
Did you ever see a glass frog?
Yeah, we did. I got to see one of those. Very
Oh, excellent. I'm jealous.
I still have hundreds of frog photos on my phone somewhere, so.
You should post them so I can see them.
So I'm just trying to remember the timing of this, because was this your junior spring? So were you
Yeah.
arranging that internship through your mother while you were in Ecuador? Is that what it was?
I think I might have done it right when I got back. But yeah, it was all in that towards the end of my St. Mike's career. 'Cause yeah, I did go abroad junior spring, which I think was a pretty good time to go. And then yeah, jump into an internship when I came back to the States.
Going back to the issue of unpaid internships, because I know that internships are very competitive right now. A lot of them that used to be available, just they've decided not to go forward until COVID kind of plays itself out. So the students I've been working with are finding it pretty difficult and pretty competitive. But even if you go back to your hometown where presumably some people, go to the conservation committee, go to the town offices and offer to be an unpaid volunteer for the summer and do some conservation work. Anything, like you don't have to do it full time and then get another job to make some money, but anything you can do to, as people were saying, just to get your foot in the door and understand how it all works, like all these different agencies you talk about and different levels of government. it's complicated, isn't it?
It
And
is.
and certainly those of you that have taken environmental policy know how complicated that is. So getting your foot in there and seeing how it all plays out on the ground, even in a volunteer capacity, can be quite useful.
Yeah, I would definitely say volunteering is well worth it. And yeah,
Yeah.
like when I did my unpaid internship, I did it part-time. I think I worked there maybe 25 hours a week and then had another job to make a little money on the side. So you can do both.
Yeah. And a lot of the summer research programs, they haven't all come back yet. So, again, competition for the ones that are going forward it's been pretty tough finding a place.
Yeah. And yeah, but you can try, and if you have time in your schedule, reach out to professors to do research during the academic year too. I did that
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
year. So that was,
Did you do that, Mindee?
yeah, I worked with Professor Swisher and we did some trophic
the algae,
level,
the algae project. Oh yes.
Yes, I was looking at algae under microscopes most of the time.
Good.
I have several questions that are not related, but I'm just going to like spew them out all at once. So you obviously have you had some stellar faculty kind of helping you along the way, but let's just like forget that they're here for the moment. And I think that you must have had some special skills or traits that have come out in the work world. So maybe you can talk a little bit about, because you've had a lot of interviews and you've had some successful interviews. So if you could just generally talk about what it takes to be successful in the field or what you've observed from your colleagues, I'd be interested in that. I'd like to know what you think about graduate school, whether that's a necessary future project for you. And I'm also interested in women in the field.
Mm.
Is that an issue, a non-issue, or whatever?
Good questions. All right, I'll try and remember them all as I answer them. I guess general skills, I think, the ones you can get, by taking your classes and all these internships are great and really important. There's some other like non-academic, qualifications or just traits maybe that are important too. Like you have to be super flexible in this field. You have to be able to adapt really quickly to changes, things falling apart or coming together, or last minute emergencies. So just a lot of it, I think, does like your attitude and your personality comes into play a lot with that. And yeah, just those like critical thinking and problem solving skills, which are hard to develop from any one thing, but they come into play a lot, I think, in this field. And just being able to highlight, even little skills that you've gained, through work study or through non-relevant jobs, and being able to tie them back to how they might relate to your field. Like, especially for your first few jobs, you might not have a lot of experience, but like I tied, I worked in the school store at St. Mike's, so I was able to sort of mentor some of the younger students as I got older. So I kind of tied that into volunteer management a little, or like just managing. So being able to use, or to be able to, show those skills that you might have that you might not think are relevant, be able to tie those in an interview, be able to.
You were a tutor too, weren't you?
Yeah, I was a tutor as well, so that was another good experience. So yeah, look for all those on-campus jobs too that can give you a little extra boost, even if they don't seem relevant right away. There are a lot of skills that you can draw just from any general job that are helpful in anything. And then, all right, what was your next question? There's one about women in the field, which I can address. It varies a lot depending on who you're working with. I think I've been lucky to end up in some more women-powered organizations. The conservation district that I work for right now is just me and one other person, so we're a really tiny organization. but a lot of the meetings I'm in, I am more in the minority of the male to female ratio, which is interesting. But so far it hasn't been too bad. I think I was worried sometimes about maybe people not taking me seriously. You know, I look young and I'm female, but I think it hasn't been too big of an issue. So I think that's good. And I think more women are coming into the field. I think it's starting to switch out a little, but a lot of the like city people that I work with, you know, at the municipal organizations, a lot of those seem to be older males. And then some of the more state government or other things I work with a lot seem to be a lot more females. So it really depends. And I think it's changing. I think more women are getting into the field, which is great. I'd like to see more female engineers and stuff that I could work with too. That would be great. And Peggy, I think I forgot your other question. I'm sorry.
Grad school?
Grad school, yes. I'm definitely interested in grad school. I like learning. I think grad school would be a great next step. My trouble with, or I thought about doing it sooner, especially when I was, you know, having trouble finding a job right around the beginning of COVID and everything. My problem is narrowing down that focus for study at grad school, because it's still such a broad field and there's still so much I love about it. It's hard to pick any one topic to do my master's in. I don't think it's necessary to work in the field. It definitely would help some. If you want to start at sort of a higher up position, then a master's degree would be a really great step. I think I do like that I am getting some real world, you know, job experience before doing a master's degree, though. I think that will be helpful. I do think I want to go back and get a master's degree at some point. Like my supervisor right now, she's doing online classes to get her master's now, and she's able to use a lot of the stuff at our job, you know, to help her in her courses, and can give her some real world application to a lot of the assignments. So I think there's some benefit to waiting, but I do, you know, I have other friends that graduated the same time as me that either took a year off and then went to grad school or went right into grad school. So there's a lot of options.
Well, I think you're being good about experiencing a lot of different things, because it does help you to focus. And you do want to be focused when you go to grad school, so you know at least the general field, you know. So I went the same route. It was 4 years after I graduated before I went to grad school and knew what I wanted to go to grad school in.
Exactly. How do I choose? Ferns, ecology, frogs?
You got it. Now you got ferns. That's it. Have you learned some new ferns lately?
I need to brush up on my fern identification.
The nice thing about environmental management, if you want to go or stay in the field broadly speaking anyway, is there are some applied master's programs as well. I was just emailing with the father of Lauren Mariolis, who graduated, I think probably a couple of years before you, but she went down to the Duke program and got her master's in, what is it called?
The Nichols School there.
Yeah.
Oh, who's that?
Is it environmental science and policy? Is it that master's down there?
I don't know if hers is in policy, but it's an applied environmental management and science kind of program, because she knew she wanted to do coastal ecology and really get into a lot of the management kinds of things that you're working on, in fact. So she's just now interviewing for a job in Washington, DC with a conservation organization. So, you know, there are lots of different ways to go, but as you say, sometimes you just need to take some time and make sure the next step is one that is going to give you what you think it will. And sometimes it won't, and that's okay too, you know. But how about the rest of you students? Anything else you want to ask Mindee before she takes off? I'm assuming, Mindee, we will be making this available for people to watch, but if someone wanted to reach out to you, are you on the SMC Connect?
I think so.
I think you are. I think that's how I might have gotten you, or maybe through LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. I think you reached out to me on. I think I'm on SMC Connect. I'll have to double check.
Okay, but it would be okay if a student wanted to reach out to you? Just to
Definitely.
follow up. Thank you. That's great.
For your position right now, how often do you spend in the office versus in the field? And then what are typical tasks that you do inside an office and then out into the field?
It's a good question. I would say the time in the office and in the field definitely varies seasonally, as you might imagine, being in the Northeast. So right now, in the past few months, I have been spending the majority of the time in the office or at my home, which is my office for the time being. And so a lot of my day is spent, communicating with some of the partners on my projects, working out details for the coming field season of, when we can get projects to start working out. I've been putting together permits, trying to get those lined up and approved and ready to go so that we can do the work once it's nice out and once the snow melts. This is the time too where I am working on grant applications for the next year. So researching new projects, trying to put those applications together, find match money and all of that good stuff. What else? Doing some, website updates, little things like that over the winter. And then, in a few months when I can get to go outside more, I will be visiting project sites. I might have to, evaluate, make sure that they're a good fit for the grant, because the grants all come with certain rules that you have to follow or, different criteria that you have to meet in order to spend their grant dollars on a site. So making sure they fit those guidelines, figuring out the best solution to fix the issue, which is usually erosion. And usually I have to meet with engineers and the landowners and maybe a town to collaborate with all of them. I might do some water quality monitoring. That's a task on some of the grants that I'm going to do this summer. What else? But yeah, just basically visiting a lot of sites, taking before and after photos. I might have to do some measurements so with it, I can measure the impact of the pollutants that we're reducing, kind of a little bit of everything. And I think in the summer, it might be like, I'd say about 50-50. This position is it did end up entailing a little more computer office work than I anticipated. Because I'm happiest when I'm out in the field, which I think a lot of people are. That's why you get into the environmental field, so you can work in the outdoors and protect the outdoors. But there is a lot of behind the scenes stuff that you have to do. And I think that comes with the fact that this is more of a management position. So I have to, maintain the budgets and work on all of that stuff at my computer as well, where like the field jobs I had before, I was outside a lot more, getting to do the nitty gritty, ripping out invasive plants or mapping them or cutting down trees, that sort of stuff.
Anyone else have a last question for Mindee?
So Mindee, are you still using GIS, and what kind of a platform are you using at a budget tight conservation district?
Good question. I am still using it. You can get a free account through ArcGIS online. We don't unfortunately have access to like the full ArcGIS program that you would be able to download normally. I have had that at previous positions where the budgets weren't quite so tight, but now I work what I can on the free account. Sometimes I also use Google Maps to kind of make simple things too, that they've got some basic GIS functions you can do. But yeah, I do use it some. It's definitely a useful skill that I wish I.
So I was just going to suggest to you, if you can't get a full ARC license, try QGIS. It's the public domain. If you've got all your GIS concepts in order, you'll find yourself taking to it like a duck to water, and it's completely free.
Ooh, I'll have to check that out.
The word Q, letter Q, GIS.
Okay.
Just a suggestion for you.
Thanks. I'll check that out.
Sure.
And if those of you who are here tonight, if you haven't taken the Maps and Apps course, I've heard from students that has, you learn a lot of really cool skills in there that can be useful in almost any job that you take. So just a little plug in for that course.
Thank you, Karen.
You bet. Well, thank you so much, Mindee. This was really fascinating to hear your story, and thank you everyone for showing up, and let us know if we can help in any way, Mindee. It was really great to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you guys. It's great to see everybody.
Yep. Thank you. Great to see you, Mindee.
Bye, Mindee.
Bye,
Bye, everyone.
good night.
Thank you.
If you need
Thanks,
more
Mindee.
letters, don't hesitate.
I might when I decide to take that plunge back to grad school.
Yeah, no,
bet.
no.
We'll be here for you.
Thank you.
Great
Yeah.
to see you, Mindee.
You too, Professor Finley.
Actually, I just have like a general question quick, if that's all
Sure.
right. So I'm looking for an internship this summer,
Mhm.
and I was like just wondering like if there's any like good sites for like looking for internships. Like I was thinking about emailing some local businesses and asking like what you were saying earlier about
Mhm.
just like offering to work for free or just to observe, but just any type of advice would be helpful.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Like if you reach out to, especially like nonprofits, a lot of times if you're looking for like a volunteer type thing, they might have work for you to do, but they might not be advertising an internship position. And there are some good job boards, like Texas A&M is a good one for like environmental focus. The Land Trust Alliance, I think it is, has a cool job board. I don't know if they have a ton of internships, but they might have some. But that's a good job board to check out. And then, look for your state environmental organizations or the state job boards. They might have something good, or like Maine, I know, has a Land Trust Network job board that posts all kinds of conservation jobs. So
What state are you in, Tate?
I'm from New York.
I would think, yeah, Northern New York area.
Yeah, from upstate.
Yeah, if you want to send me an email, we can follow up and I can give you some other ideas as well.
Okay. Yeah,
What year are you, Tate?
I'm a sophomore.
Okay, it's a good time to to be looking. So
Yeah.
yeah, just
sorry.
email me. I'd be happy to talk to you about it.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Miss Mindee, you want to volunteer for the summer?
we are trying to put together an internship, but it's only like 10 hours. We don't have a lot of funding.
Yeah, okay.
But
all right.
Thank you.
Thanks
Have a
a
good
lot.
night.
Bye.
hey.
Nice to see you, Peter.
Hey, great to see you, Karen. Thank you.
Bye.
Great to see you,
Bye.
Mindee.